Good afternoon or good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone here today to Johnson Pools and Spas. And I'd like to welcome Congressman Langworthy for being here today to talk on a very important subject. We have a lot of elected officials behind me. I'd just like to note Sheriff Gary Howard and Assemblyman Chris Friend and many of my colleagues behind me here. We're here today to combat the electric mandate on new construction. I know that Congressman Langworthy is going to talk about that and a lot of the negative aspects of it. And we need to take a lead on that in this county as well to what I think one of the most important issues is making public aware of this. You can talk to many people in our community and many other communities around the area here, and they aren't aware of this. And we need to really let the public know what's going on here, because it's going to affect everyone. Whether you're building a new home, whether you're buying a new home, whether you want to buy a new home 10 years from now, and you're going to have no choice other than to start buying these houses that are being constructed now. And if it's not your choice, you might not find the house that you're looking for. So with that, I'm just going to ask Congressman Langworthy to come up and address us, and welcome to Tioga County.
Thank you so much, Supervisor. It is great to be back here in Tioga County, and I want to thank all of my friends for joining me here today as we tackle this important topic. I want to especially thank Eric and Janice Johnson for hosting us today here in giving us the backdrop for this discussion, and John Healy from the Builders Exchange of the Southern Tier for joining us to represent the home builders of the Southern Tier. They are on the front lines of housing and commercial construction markets across the region, and they see firsthand how government policies affect housing costs and accessibility. And unfortunately, thanks to radical energy policies that have taken root in Albany, we are in the midst of a housing nightmare going forward. And I'm here in Owego today with a clear and urgent message. We need to ban the ban. That's the ban on natural gas and propane in new construction. Governor Hochul and Democrats that control the legislature, they woke up one morning and they decided it was time to declare war on natural gas and propane. And I don't need to tell you that those are two fuel sources that a lot of people in the Southern Tier depend on to heat their homes. And they have made our state ground zero for the Green New Deal. And in Washington, the Green New Deal is a concept. It's a pipe dream. In New York, it's unfortunately law. And I have been sounding the alarm on this since I went to Congress. But we're now just a few short months away from a ban on natural gas hookups in new construction from taking effect. Too many people still are completely unaware of what is on the horizon. January 1st, 2026, you can no longer build a new home in the state of New York with the energy source of your choice. And it's already affecting the housing market and the cost of our energy bills. When I tell people in Washington that next January, in a cold climate, when they think of me as a guy from Buffalo, they think about snow. But when I tell them that you could no longer build a home that hooks up to natural gas, their eyes pop out of their head. They can't get their head around the logic that would get a state to that decision, especially a state that's known for cold weather and very large snow events. This is simply an un-American assault on our freedom, our pocketbooks, and most importantly, our safety. Because I don't need to tell anyone in the Southern Tier what a lifeline natural gas and propane are during a winter power outage. On the other end of our district, where I live, Winter Storm Elliott, it was, we remember it as the Christmas blizzard, Christmas of 22. It was just days before I took office as congressman. Brutal cold, whiteout conditions, no end in sight to the hurricane force winds. And we lost 69 lives in that storm. And I've told the governor to her face that if her electrification mandate was online during that storm, that number would have at least been tenfold. And I believe that with full conviction. That death toll would have been far worse if people didn't have natural gas to heat their homes and to stay alive. Gas stoves, gas fireplaces, they literally saved lives in communities like ours. And it's bad enough that people in the southern tier can't access natural gas sitting right under our feet that God gave us because of downstate ideology and mandates that would transform our economy. But it's especially outrageous that Kathy Hochul was supposed to be the governor in our first governor from upstate New York in over 100 years. But she's abandoned that upbringing, those roots, to kowtow to the radical left that runs her party in Albany to stay in power. She was from Buffalo. Now she's Kathy from Brooklyn. And I have told her directly that the community she grew up with would be put in a very dangerous position because of the actions that she has taken in energy. This push to full electrification is not just misguided, it is dangerous. It's going to have a devastating effect on people's household budgets and our housing supply. In 2021, there was a study of the Home Innovation Research Labs that found the additional cost of building an all-electric house compared to one with natural gas was well into the $15,000 range. The cost for a geothermal heat pump can go as high as $45,000. And according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, there's a 42% increase in annual costs for households heating and using their utilities with strictly electricity over a home with natural gas for the average homeowner. That is real money. That is real money that consumers and taxpayers here in the southern tier simply cannot afford. And the consequences of these Green New Deal policies, they're already being felt. Just last week, there was more news. Governor Hochul's Public Service Commission has green-lighted utility rate hikes because of the mandates the state is putting down on the utilities. It's easy for politicians to beat up the utilities, but they are not the ones at fault here. It's Albany telling them that the grid needs to be beefed up in areas so that this mass electrification mandate can come online. And this, obviously, you have this housing discussion that I'm having with you today. But this goes much further. I mean, we have the school bus mandate where they want every school bus in New York State to be electrified at a massive cost to the taxpayer, at a cost that our school districts simply cannot afford. And in many areas, the grid is not capable of bringing that Category 1 style power to bus garages in our region. And I'm getting calls from my constituents across the district that they don't want this, they don't trust this, and they are very concerned about going into frigid winters in our region with the idea of an electrification mandate and losing perhaps that redundancy. Maybe some people do have radiant electric heat in their home if they live in an area that's got lower rates. But you know those are few and far between. But many of those also have the redundancy of maybe a natural gas fireplace. And you'd at least have that to keep your family warm if there's an extended power outage in the cold winter months. These decisions that were made in Albany were not made based on technology, practicality, market demand. They were made simply for political ideology. New York State wanted to be the leader in outgreen other states. They wanted to emulate California. I don't want our state to ever emulate California. I mean, California is the worst state to possibly base yourself after. Natural gas is clean, it's reliable, it's affordable, and it's abundant. And it's transformed the Pennsylvania economy, if anyone hasn't noticed. But the fight that I went to Washington to have, and I'm a little different than a lot of Republicans that are out there promoting states' rights above all else. I am looking for federal solutions to defeat bad policy out of my state capital. And that is why I introduced the Energy Choice Act. This would block state and local governments from banning specific sources of energy that are safe and legal. Those are like natural gas and propane here in new construction, because the American people should have the freedom of economic choice to decide what energy they want to use in their home. Just like they should have the freedom of choice as to what kind of car they want to drive. Government shouldn't tell you you must buy an EV. If you want an EV, I want you to have an EV. If it doesn't suit your needs, as many people that drive long distances that live in the southern tier, it doesn't suit what their lifestyle brings, you shouldn't be forced to by the government. Unfortunately, that has been another mantra of the folks running the show in Albany. Natural gas powers our homes, our manufacturing plants, our hospitals, and our small businesses. It's a lifeline for today, but it's also a bridge to an energy future. It's ironic Governor Hochul talks about building a new nuclear power plant. We do need to get into the nuclear age in New York. It's probably a 15-year runway at best case scenario. But we burn natural gas to create 40% of the electricity in the state of New York. Niagara Falls is about 20% from existing nuclear that goes back decades, and just a negligible amount equates to the power created by the alternatives of wind and solar. Yet wind and solar are all that the other side wants to talk about as the alternatives going forward. I am proud to be leading this fight to ban the ban and protect New Yorkers' rights to affordable energy options in their homes. And I'm thrilled that this bill is gaining a ton of momentum. And we have a vast support from members across the country, various industry leaders. We have more than 46 co-sponsors already, and they represent dozens of states, not just those states that are at war with fossil fuels. They don't want this idea to get contagious around the country. We need to stop this in its tracks to make sure this doesn't continue, and the Energy Choice Act would do just that. But we also have the National Association of Home Builders, who are represented here today, the National Propane Association. Many trade associations have joined our efforts here in this fight, and we've built this coalition, and I'm very proud that U.S. Senator Jim Justice of West Virginia, he's introduced a companion bill that would be working in the Senate at the same time I'm working to get it through the House, so hopefully we can beat the Governor Hochul mandate on January 1st of 2026, and we're not going to rest until this is on the President's desk. But I'm working hard to get awareness of this problem because of the way they do things, and Assemblyman Friend can talk a little bit more about this when we call him up. The way they pass legislation like this isn't through stakeholder meetings, hearings, discussions. They tuck it in the budget 3 years ago. And then you find out when it's upon you. And until you go to have someone come to your home and say, I need this fixed, all of a sudden they're like, well, the law doesn't allow me to sell that to you anymore. I mean, that's the way Albany works. And we need the power to go back to the people. And I'm confident when we get back in September, we're going to be working to mark this bill up and get it out of committee in the Energy and Commerce Committee, which I fought to have a seat at that table. I'm the only New York Republican on that committee. And before closing, I also wanted to touch on the fact that home ownership is always been the major plank of the American dream. It's the cornerstone. Right now, our youngest generation is struggling to achieve that portion of the American dream. And they can't find a home that they can afford. This is going to exacerbate the costs of those homes, and it's going to slow, if not finish off, any new home construction, especially in our southern tier counties. You are watching as Albany is intentionally destroying the housing market, adding tens of thousands of costs that will push the dream home much further down the road for many families. This is an Albany problem, and I'm working to find a Washington solution to fix it. And it's one of the main reasons I wanted to serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee. New Yorkers now have a seat at that table, and I am going to make damn sure to use this position to fight for common sense policies, and we will ensure that we have access to clean and reliable energy. And before we get into the Q&A, I'd like to introduce our host here today, the proprietor here, Eric Johnson.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Eric.
Thank you. We appreciate it. I don't have a whole lot to say other than when we talk about this alternative, if this goes through, they're going to take out a whole industry in New York State. If we can't sell wood, gas, and pellet stoves, natural gas, and LP, there's a whole industry gone. And it's across all of upstate New York where everybody does rely on these sources. And, it's going to mean job losses, and that's not good. As well, we talked about, NYSEG in Tioga County in Owego for the last 6 weeks. It's been the joke, set your watch at 2 o'clock because the power is going to go out. 6 consecutive weeks at a time for a minimum of 4 hours a day on Sundays. And we have a lot of customers that come in that are on electric heat in their home, and they're like, listen, it's not heating our house, we're cold, we need to upgrade, we need to supplement. And this would just absolutely devastate that and hamstring these people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Eric. I appreciate it very much, you being here. Now we'd like to welcome forward John Healy from the Southern Tier Builders Exchange. Thank you, John.
Just to reiterate a couple of points that Congressman Langworthy said so well. Number one, just freedom. We just ask for the freedom of choice. Let individual homeowners, small business owners, residential houses, architects, engineers, just let them choose what they want, how they supply their own house, what equipment they want to put in. Infrastructure, the infrastructure is just not in place to support the law, and that there'll be too much supply, not enough demand, too much demand, not enough supply, and then cost. There's just going to increase home ownership, cost of construction, and we thank Congressman Langworthy taking the lead on this issue.
Thank you so much, John. If you don't have your building permit stamped on New Year's Eve, you don't get to build a home with the energy of your choice. Owego Town Hall probably ought to have extended hours on New Year's Eve because you're seeing this everywhere. In every municipality I visit, they're seeing an uptick of people that are trying to beat the clock. A lot of home builders are trying to pre-permit things because they're aware of this problem. We're trying to get public awareness of this problem because, again, the way they passed the law, 3 years ago? Tuck it in the budget, don't talk about it. And now it's here, and it's about to affect your life. And there are people that some of the builders I've met with this August have told me have just walked away from the table when they know that they can't get into the ground by this December, that they would have to go to an all-electric model. They're just not interested in building a home anymore. And that is put such a great deal of uncertainty on the backs of this entire critical industry. Now we would like to welcome forward Gary Holmes from the Owego Council. Yes.
Very important, and thank you very much for being here, sir. Very appreciated. And Eric, thank you. As elected officials, our job is to support and take care of the people, not burden them. There's so many things, just like the Congressman was talking about, if you lose power in upstate New York, what's going to run your generator? It's either propane or fuel. So this is putting us in a terrible bind. And as he said, young people want to build a house. They can't afford it. They can't get up. They can't have the money to do it. And now if this goes through, which this is absolutely, in my opinion, crazy. If this goes through, it's going to cripple the whole industry. Businesses like this, I've known these gentlemen, these people, the family. Your mother, I love your mom, by the way. There's people, they've had this business and worked hard all their. This is going to hurt them terribly. That's not our job. Our job is to take care of our voters and our taxpayers. Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. And now my good friend from Waverly, Andrew Ahrens.
Thank you for inviting me, Congressman. I've had a pleasure of hosting the Congressman at several meetings in Waverly, and I know him, and the Waverly people know him as a true supporter of the Southern Tier. And nothing can be more important than the issue that he's talking about today. This is going to affect the only way that we are going to energize, that we are going to motorize, that we are going to keep this country growing and this state growing is by a common sense, all of the above approach. And we have the right man in Washington to make sure that that happens. He's going to fight. Why he wants to be in Washington, I have no clue. But I'm glad he's there, and I'm glad that we have a real fighter out there supporting the Southern Tier.
Thank you so much.
You got it.
Thank you. And now, last but not least, Assemblyman Chris Friend, someone that's been part of this fight with me and fighting the fight in Albany for a long time.
Thank you, Congressman. As the Congressman mentioned, this law was passed 3 years ago, tucked into the budget in one of our backroom deals. And it's just, again, part of what was passed in 2019 called the CLCPA, which we are all just beginning to see the impacts of what that is with skyrocketing utility rates and costs to our home builder getting a salary across the Southern Tier. That's a lot of money that you're talking about ponying up for something that don't even need to be sacrificing right now. We sit above the Marcellus and Utica shales, which could supply enough energy, not only for our country, but for the world, for over 100 years. But we're not allowed to access it. And that's ridiculous. Instead, we're putting out electrical cords to Ohio, to West Virginia, and up to Canada to bring in electrical power to supply the demand, instead of producing the power here in our own state, hiring our own workers, and providing the tax revenues we need within our own state. And it's also disingenuous to go ahead and attack the industry that is the top property taxpayer in the southern tier, which is the natural gas industry. If we shut them down and take them out of their state, what are we going to do for our schools? Where are they going to make up that tax revenue? It's just not fair. And I appreciate the congressman bringing attention to this issue because it needs more attention. Thank you to the press for being here today and bringing some highlight to this.
Thank you so
Congressman.
much, Assemblyman. You know, and he touches on the cost to build, but that's a one-time cost. The cost to heat, I mean, if you're at the rates, you're outside of a municipal system of electricity, which there's very few munis left, you could be looking at $1,000 a month electric bill. I mean, that's a reality. If you have a cold winter and you have to heat your home, I mean, as we see these double-digit rate increases at the behest of Hochul's Public Service Commission, that is going to be in dollars. On, you know, we have a lot of people in our community on a fixed income. They can't afford this. When you go to, you know, I think about the 80-year-old widow trying to stay in her home, and the furnace conks out, and she calls the HVAC repairman, and they say, I can't restore this furnace and I can't replace it. You know, we'll get you suited up with a $30,000 geothermal heat pump. Who's going to pay for that? She doesn't have the money. And that's more the rule than an exception in the southern tier. What this idiotic mandate that Albany has thrust down on us is capable of doing is taking our biggest long-term threat, which is the flight of our population, and putting the afterburners on and sending more and more people to the exits as they leave for Florida and they leave for Tennessee and Texas and the Carolinas, places where they have more personal and economic freedom. Because government shouldn't be picking winners and losers, and they shouldn't be telling people how you should heat your home, how you should, you know, what sources of energy you should be able to use in your home. And that's why I'm looking forward to next week going back to Washington to get back to work and to get this bill across the finish line. So I want to thank you all for being here today. I'd be happy to take any questions from the press.
So two-part question. Government wheels move slowly sometimes. What are the chances, realistically, you think, of getting this pushed across before the January 1st deadline?
Well, the deadline is something that I'm making my leadership in the House very well aware of. Energy and Commerce has been fully supportive of me moving the ball forward. I mean, had last year's presidential election turned out differently, I would say that there was no chance. I do believe we will get this across the finish line in the House. Unlike last year when I first introduced the bill, we didn't have a Senate companion. Now we do. And Senator Justice is someone that understands, you know, coming from a state like West Virginia where, you know, the national assault on the coal industries had a very devastating effect on their economy. He understands the need for energy freedom. And having a Senate companion is a big deal in this process. We're going to race against the clock. I'm going to work around the clock to get the job done. But I had members of Congress from all over the country coming to me saying, well, the National Propane Association just visited with their grassroots visit where their membership from all the different states go and they visit with their members of Congress. And they're like, we want you to get on the Langworthy bill. And, you know, that's a great way to get awareness of that legislation because so many different stakeholder organizations have joined this fight. We're creating a grassroots movement. I'm going to talk to a lot of these ladies and gentlemen, about getting our towns and our counties to endorse this legislation because we need Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand to at least do no harm in our efforts to get this over the finish line and not try to block it.
Have you done a whip count, and are you confident when if it gets to the floor in both chambers that you have the votes?
I'm confident with a Republican majority we will pass this bill in the House. In the Senate, they move awful slow, but time is of the essence. We're going to be ramping it up, and I'm going to, you know, I'm going to work around the clock to get this done. I have no doubt New York will litigate. What Governor Hochul could do is just push this mandate out a few years. I mean, she's had to do that a time or two. She could blame Trump. She could blame anybody she wants. I mean, no one's going to be offended if she blames the president or blames me. I don't care what you want to blame. But get more time on the clock. Don't put this hammer over everyone's head that everyone's got a race to change the way they do business before December 31st. It is not the right time for this.
You mentioned, the priority of getting public awareness out there. What kind of difference do you think that could make in getting this bill across the finish line in the next 4 months?
Well, I know Assemblyman Chris Friend's on my side. I know that Senator O'Mara. We are represented in the state legislature by a lot of pro-energy people. Our entire delegation, probably save for a couple that are in the inner cities, are very pro-energy. But we need the public at large to join the fight and to understand that this deadline is something that will affect your lives going forward. You want to buy this gas insert and put it in your house? Forget about it if this goes through. I am looking for this federal solution to cancel out their ability to do this. But the damage is done. But the governor needs this public pressure. People asking for either a moratorium or a delay in implementation so that people can be better prepared for this. You realize that all the unpopular things that Albany does, they don't run around and brag about. Kathy Hochul's running all over the state telling people she's giving free lunch to school kids. I'm not opposed to that. She likes to give out good news. Bad news, they hide. And then they make all the businesses just deliver the bad news. But the sad reality is all they're doing in this process is ramping up more and more moving trucks to head to point south.
You mentioned the legal side, that if you get this done, what do you think legal-wise? What's the battle going to be like in court?
I mean, listen, everything's litigated these days. I expect that they'd litigate, and that would at least buy us all more time. They can litigate all they want. We want to get this into law. I want to get this on the president's desk, and I'm going to work like hell to get it done.
What's the time frame on this exactly?
Well, the deadline that Governor Hochul's put on the taxpayers of the state, the existing law in New York is 12/31 is the last day that someone can permit a new home for construction in New York State without sacrificing the ability to have a natural gas or propane hookup. Any other questions?
The 7 stories thing, is that just to protect the cities from building?
But all of this ideology comes out of New York City. Mm-hmm. Yet they're grandfathered until 2029 for anything 10 stories and above. They don't have to worry about it for a while because they know they can't make it work down there. But us peons upstate that they don't care about. I mean, the governor's abandoned her principles. She's abandoned her roots. And she doesn't stand for the people here. These mandates come on us right away. Okay, thanks everybody. Really appreciate you coming.
Thank you.